This crime situation is serious. That is a huge understatement on my part. Like I can hear a lot of you saying, "Well, really, Neil, this crime situation is out of control." Well, it is, and so much so in states like California that a number of big retailers, including the likes of Target, Walmart's, they're going to close a lot of their stores a little bit earlier to deal with that because it's actually dangerous for workers, dangerous for shoppers. What to make of that with Carol Roth and Dave Maney back with us. Carol, what they're acknowledging is we have to balance making money with making sure everyone's safe. And they've, quite properly, erred on the latter. But I wonder if anyone in power is seeing what's playing out here, that this is now a dollar and cents issue that is compromised when you don't pay attention or you don't address crime. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that everybody should be furious about, because if there's one thing the government should actually be doing, it should be upholding and protecting our individual rights, which includes our property rights. And all of these new laws and regulations and failures to prosecute is a failure of their duty, and it's a failure of our system. And you have to realize that, again, this goes back to the war on small business and the fact these big companies, the Targets and the Walgreens, they have the economic wherewithal to make shifts. They can close earlier. They can add additional security and resources. They can close down stores, as we're hearing in certain areas, and shift the locations. But if you're a family-owned business that's been there for generations, if you're someone who's put your entire 401k into one location, you do not have that luxury. So this is a full-on attack on economic freedom, independence, the ability for people to create wealth, and that should be the story here.
It's interesting. It all occurs in roughly the same week, over the past week, Dave, where New York Mayor Bill de Blasio had said there really is no crime issue here in New York. And I thought to myself, well, Mayor, just walk outside. But having said that, and this cavalier attitude, he kind of typifies it for me that there is nothing to see here, or that it's a mean exaggeration here. The statistics are what they are. And I think in some of these cities where it's poo-pooed, or the Chicago mayor say it's racially driven because she's an African-American woman mayor, come on, where are we going here?
Well, look, it's, a big part of the problem also is what happens on the prosecution side. And you see, in the New York election, although it's a bit of a cloudy picture at the moment, it appears that they've elected a district attorney, this fellow, Alvin Bragg, I think his name is, who is very similar to the knuckleheads on the West Coast, Gascon in Los Angeles and Boudin in San Francisco, who have decided they're not going to prosecute low-level property crimes. And what happens is so stunningly obvious. The stuff runs wild, and then suddenly you've got complaints about, well, there's no place for old people to get prescriptions, and we've got food deserts. And it's like, right. Hey, no kidding. If you don't protect the property rights of merchants, you're going to suddenly find yourself unable to serve key constituencies, and quality of life is going to go to hell.
Yeah, it was the number one issues for the Democratic mayoral primary, which, by the way, you're quite right, Dave. This thing will not end for another, 8 years, the way the counting thing. But we're told we'll get a later wrinkle on it in about an hour or so. But having said that, you're quite right. It's the number one issue for Democrats, crime. So this is not just a political thing. This is kind of a life and death thing. Switching gears, guys, and if you don't mind, Carol, I'd like to get an update on how you feel about some of these investment banks that are urging their workers to come back in person to work, to offices, namely in Manhattan, the case of Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley, where I'm sure this crime issue is a legitimate one and an anxious one, to say nothing of just the post-COVID world. But what's interesting is it lines up, with the Goldman Sachs and the Morgan Stanley saying, get your butts back here, and the sooner the better. And others like Citigroup, Wells Fargo, to a lesser degree, Bank of America, saying we can kind of experiment with a hybrid nature, not everyone at once. Where do you think this is going?
So I'm going to use an anecdote. I have a mentee who came to me as a teenager who wanted to be an investment banker. He just got into investment banking as the pandemic hit. So he is going through his first year as an analyst in a work from home environment. And that has been incredibly stressful because as you're trying to learn and get up the curve, you don't have that team camaraderie. You don't have other people in the office telling you what to do and can I borrow your pitch book and those kinds of things. So I think there are certain industries where being in the office provides an additional level of benefit that may not be the same in other arenas. So as a recovering investment banker, I can understand at least part-time, at least a few days a week, why you'd want to have that happen. And investment banks have the resources to have car services to be able to send people home and to and from work. So I think that that's one piece to it. But certainly getting more people back in the flow is going to help with crime, with the economy. More places open up to service those people. So getting a little bit more normalcy, I think, will help. However, I do think a lot of companies will rely on that hybrid model for some time to come. So that transition back won't be as quick as perhaps some people might have thought before this all started.
Yeah, we're a long way from sorting it out, I guess. I wish we had more time, guys, but thank you very, very much.